Welcome back, brave souls, to Shadow Keepers. I'm Lee.
And I'm B. Tonight, the shadows grow deeper as we return to one of England's most chilling, blood soaked landmarks, the Tower of London.
In part one, we uncover tales of betrayal, restless spirits, and the tortured echoes of history trapped within these ancient walls.
But what lies beyond the darkness is far more sinister. Tonight, we descend deeper into the forgotten cells, the whispering corridors, and the cursed ground beneath our feet.
Hold tight to your courage as the tower reveals its darkest secrets in part two of The Haunting of the Tower of London. Lady Jane Grey, she wasn't born to be queen. She didn't fight for the crown. She didn't even want it, but they gave it to her anyway, and it cost her everything. The 9-Day Queen. That's what history calls her, but that title is more like a tombstone. Lady Jane Grey didn't seize the throne. She didn't plot or betray or raise armies. All she did was say yes to pressure, to family, to fear. And in doing so, she signed her own death warrant. Jane was just 16 years old, brilliant and devout, fluent in Latin and Greek, raised more like a scholar than a future monarch. She wasn't meant to rule. She was meant to be used, a pawn in the hands of powerful men desperate to control the crown. After the death of King Edward VI in 1553, Jane was shoved into the throne by the Duke of Northumberland, her father-in-law. It was a political coup, one meant to keep the Protestant Reformation alive and shut Mary Tudor, Edward's Catholic half-sister, out of power. But Mary wasn't having it. Just 9 days after Jane was declared queen, Mary stormed London with public support, took the throne by force, and locked Jane in the Tower. Jane didn't resist. She didn't rally an army. She didn't scream betrayal. She simply returned to the Tower, not as a queen, but as a prisoner. And that's where she waited, alone, while the court decided what to do with her. Here's where the haunting begins, not just her ghost, but her state of mind. At first, Jane was told she'd be spared, kept alive in quiet exile. But as rebellion stirred, rebellion supposedly in Jane's name, Mary changed her mind. And Jane? She changed too. In her final days, Jane became strangely serene, chillingly calm. She wrote letters, prayed constantly, and according to the Tower's chaplain, she had a vision, a dream of great darkness swallowing the sky, and a silver crown falling into ashes. She said she heard voices, whispers in the tower walls. Her last writings shift between religious clarity and something more cryptic. One line stands out. I go now not to die, but to remembered by the walls themselves. On the morning of February 12, 1554, Jane was led to Tower Green. The execution was private, meant to avoid public outcry. A teenage girl whispering the words, Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And then she was blindfolded. And in one heart-stopping moment, she couldn't find the block. She cried out, What shall I do? Where is it? And a hand guided her. Then silence, and the fall of the axe. But like so many souls claimed by the tower, she didn't leave. They say Jane's ghost is often seen in the early morning mist, standing at the spot where she died. Sometimes she walks, clutching a book to her chest. Other times, she just stares at the sky, like she's waiting for a justice that never came. But it's more than just an echo. Some guards claim she turns her head to watch them pass. Others report hearing soft footsteps in the Queen's house, a young girl pacing in silence. Occasionally, the faint scent of roses fills the air, but there are no roses planted nearby. And some nights, they're singing, a gentle, sorrowful hymen in a language no one recognizes, Old English, Latin, or something far older. Some versions of her haunting describe her spirit as fractured, split between the girl she was and the queen she never got to be. Some sightings report hearing two voices, one praying softly, the other sobbing, one grounded, the other lost. Could her ghost be stuck between timelines? Between the life she was meant to live and the one history forced on her? There's a legend passed down by the tower staff that sometimes, just before Jane appears, a cold wind rushes through the courtyard, and the faint sound of pages turning fills the air. Pages like a book, a final sermon, a royal diary, or something else. Maybe Jane left a message. Maybe her death wasn't just about politics, but part of a larger pattern, a curse that clings to young blood and broken crowns. And maybe her spirit is still trying to warn us. Some believe the tower chooses its ghosts, that those who remain aren't trapped, but watching, protecting, or warning.
I think after every story, I always say that's so sad because I know I did it last. I was like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. 'Cause it is. It actually is sad.
It's sad because she didn't want it, and it's not like today where she coulda went online, sent a mass message like, "I don't wanna be queen. Mary, you can have it. Don't fight in my name. Don't support me. Don't start no riots. I do not want to be queen. Leave me alone."
Yeah, I think the men thought they could control her if she had the crown, but they wouldn't be able to control Mary, but she took it anyway.
Yeah, Mary who was Mary the First, right? Or
Yes. So when King Edward VI died, his half sister, Mary, they were preventing her from taking that crown by making Jane the queen. Because Mary's a Tudor. Mary Tudor.
it said Mary Tudor?
Hmm.
So then that's Henry's daughter,
Henry this,
the
not
8th.
the eighth.
That's
Okay.
Elizabeth's older sister.
Okay. So it is Mary the first then.
It is Mary the First. If she was a Tudor, then
Yeah.
it was Mary the First. Who was she married to? Because it said, one, she was 16. I can't even imagine a child running a country. I guess though they did age a lot faster back then. But it said her father-in-law is the one who pushed her to do it. So who was she married to?
Yeah. So the father in law is Duke of Northumberland.
Okay, she was married to Lord Guildford Dudley. Ew. And they were only married a year. Did he go to the tower?
No,
Mhm.
they had.
Mhm.
Wait, they killed both of them?
He was also decapitated. Yeah. Because you would he was 19. At least you married a young dude cuz back then they were like, "Oh, he's
Mm,
60,
ugh.
he's 16." And like, no, at least she got somebody young. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Like I would have been happy with that. But no, I'm like I don't want to be queen. I was told Mary, like, "Mary, listen, I don't wanna be queen. You wanna give me a microphone? You wanna put me out on something, and I'll tell everybody, I do not wanna be queen. Do not fight in my name." Like, they was ready. I would have sent her to an abbey, let her become a nun,
Yeah, but she was probably scared.
cause she was devout.
They probably, like, forced her to be in this position.
They did, and that sucks, cause like, I mean, becoming king and queen today, it doesn't even mean anything. Like, it means almost literally nothing, and back then, it meant so much. I would never want that life. I would have been happy as a commoner living in the middle of the woods. And Queen Mary moved fast as
Mhm.
shit. Nine
9 days.
9 days.
She's a
Damn.
9-day queen.
I didn't even get a whole new wardrobe yet. Like,
She heard about it and she ran over. She's like, "Uh-uh, it's not happening."
probably more like her father than everybody thought.
But a rebellion was starting in Jane's name, so
Yeah.
she did get afraid that she was gonna lose it.
Yes. Which lose what? She didn't want it.
No, not Jane, Mary.
I
If a
know.
rebellion started in Jane's name, she would have
Mary,
been thrown out and
but
Jane would
that's
have
what I'm
been back on the
saying. Jane
crown.
didn't even want it. And
Yeah.
it might have been because of more of the religious aspect than anything else.
Yeah, 'cause they
Um,
wanted to keep the Protestant alive.
yeah, and Mary wasn't queen that long anyway.
Yeah. What was it, like
She was
5
only
years or something?
Yeah, she was only queen for a couple years.
Yeah.
Few names in British history carry as much infamy and fire as Guy Fawkes, the man who nearly changed the course of England with one massive explosion. While history remembers his failed plot to blow up Parliament, many believe in his tormented spirit still lingers in the Tower of London, where he endured some of the most gruesome torture ever recorded. Even today, on cold November nights, Whispers of his suffering still echo through the tower stone walls. One night on November 5th, 1605, authorities discovered Guy Fawkes lurking in the cellars beneath the House of Parliament. He was standing beside 36 barrels of gunpowder, enough to reduce Parliament to a rubble and kill King James I. The gunpowder plot, orchestrated by a group of Catholic conspirators, named to assassinate the Protestant king and replace him with a Catholic ruler. Fawkes, a hardened soldier, was chosen to light the fuse. But before he could set England ablaze, he was caught, arrested, and dragged to the Tower of London, where a fate worse than death awaited him. The Tower of London was no stranger to pain, but few prisoners endured the horror that awaited Guy Fawkes. King James personally ordered that Fawkes be tortured until he revealed the names of his co-conspirators. The brutality escalated over days, growing worse each time he refused to talk. Fawkes was stretched, limb from limb, on the racks, his joints popping, his bones nearly breaking as the device wrenched him apart. He was suspended by iron chains, his wrists locked in metal cuffs, leaving him to hang for hours as his body slowly dislocated under its own weight. Sleep deprivation and psychological torture, guards kept him awake for days, weakening his mind, whispering promises of mercy before dragging him back into agony. At first, Fawkes remained defiant, even mockingly giving his name as John Johnson to his captors. But after days of relentless suffering, his resistance snapped. His signature on the confession, scrawled in shaky ink, shows the damage done to his body. On January 31st, 1606, Guy Fawkes was sentenced to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, one of the most gruesome executions imaginable. He was dragged through the streets of London. He was supposed to be hanged until near death, then cut down and disemboweled alive. His heart and entrails were to be ripped out and burned before his eyes, and his body quartered, his remains scattered across England. But in one final act of rebellion, Fawkes cheated his executioners as he climbed the gallows. He threw himself from the platform, snapping his own neck before they could butcher him alive. The executioners still chopped his body into pieces, but he escaped the worst of his fate, though his soul, some say, never truly left. Centuries later, his presence still lingers in the Tower of London, where his agonized screams once filled the torture chamber. Visitors and night guards have reported a dark hooded figure moving through the dungeons where Fawkes was tortured. Some have seen him standing motionless, hands bound in front of him, before vanishing into the darkness. Many have reported disembodied groans, low and guttural, as if someone in unbearable pain still lingers in the tower. Faint rasping whispers have been heard in the corridor near the White Tower where Fawkes was held. A strange sulfuric scent, reminiscent of burning gunpowder, has been noticed in rooms where no fire has burnt for centuries. Some believe in the sign of his spirit, forever bound to his failed act of destruction. Guy Fawkes was a man who came within inches of changing history, but instead he became a legend of failure, treachery, and torment. His story has been told for centuries, but perhaps his soul never left. Every year, on Bonfire Night, November 5th, England celebrates his failure with fireworks, burning effigies, and eerie memory of a man whose ghost may still haunt the Tower of London. Is Fawkes a cursed spirit, trapped by unfinished business, or is he simply an echo of England's darkest days, forever replaying his suffering?
Wow. Why'd he have to be
Oh,
so brutal with his execution, though?
because he was trying to kill a king.
That's
Like
crazy.
the others were falsely accused of treason as an excuse to kill them, where this guy was actually in the act of trying to kill a king.
Which king did he
So
want to kill?
James the First,
Okay.
because he was Protestant, and this was, I guess, the Catholics were trying to bring down Parliament and King James as a Protestant king to turn the religion back to Catholic. But he was just there to light it. It could have been any soldier.
Yeah. That's crazy. So I understand why he just broke his own neck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're doing too much. I
Yeah.
think I would have killed myself a whole lot sooner
Mhm.
if I could have. But what I don't like too is like they celebrate this. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
Like,
celebrate his failure.
yeah, I mean, I think most of England is Catholic anyway. I think half Catholic, half Protestant. Like, I don't get why this is a day to celebrate though. This would be a holiday I would like demolish. You're celebrating someone, yeah, who failed at something, but I mean, failed at what? What are
Failed at
you
killing the king.
celebrating? I don't understand. That's what they did back then though.
Mhm.
So it's
It
like
was
to have that be a holiday today, that's wild.
it was a brutal time.
It was, but I'm more worried about how I'm more interested in the fact that it's still something that's celebrated. I mean, yeah, we have Columbus Day, though it was switched to Indigenous Day because Columbus don't need to be celebrated
Mm-mm.
at all. I even told Tony, I said they need to take that statue down in PR and stop playing.
I know when I went to the Dominican, we went to the Columbus's house, and the Dominicans don't care for him at all. That's just a tourist
No,
spot. They make money off of tourists going there, but they hate that man.
they do.
Yeah.
Oh, they do.
Right?
But yeah, that was mine. That was sad.
Margaret.
That was as bad as Margaret
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
Margaret was an accident.
Yeah, she got chopped up by accident.
Margaret was the Axeman
Mhm. The Axeman of New
who had one
Orleans.
job, failed.
The Axeman of New
Where
Orleans,
this was
that was part of his
brutality.
family. That was part of his family.
It was like, damn.
That's his ancestors chopping people up.
And then what's funny is too because they wanted his entrails and heart ripped out and burnt in front of him. I don't know if they understood
Yeah,
that without his heart, he would not be alive anymore. So he
yeah,
would not see them burning. Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But ain't nothing like the Vikings though. Like the
It was
Vikings,
it was the idea of he heard, "Oh, this is what we're gonna do to you," to instill more fear in him.
that's why he snapped his neck. Y'all should have kept that shit
He's
quiet.
like yeah, right? He should have done it in secret and fucking made him feel it, but
But yeah, but that's like the Vikings. The Vikings when they killed you, it was horrible.
yeah,
They used
they
to
were very
spread
brutal.
they used to spread your rib cage from the back, I think. They used to pull your spine out, spread your rib cage from the back, and it almost looked like a bird. I think it was
Mhm,
called something like named after a bird while you were alive.
mhm.
'Cause you don't need a spine to live.
No, you would just be paralyzed.
Yep.
Arabella Stuart, the lost queen of England, one of the most tragic and mysterious figures in royal history. A woman born into power, shot out of it, and ultimately erased. But her ghost, if the tower holds any spirit full of anger, betrayal, and unfulfilled destiny, it's hers. Arabella wasn't just royalty, she was a royal threat. Born in 1575, she was the great granddaughter of Margaret Tudor, the sister of Henry VIII. That bloodline made her a legitimate contender for the throne. And in the dangerous chessboard of Elizabethan politics, that made her valuable and deadly. She grew up under tight surveillance. Her life wasn't her own. She was raised in grand estates but treated like a prisoner in silk. Educated, controlled, hidden, watched. Because if Queen Elizabeth I died without an heir, which she did, Arabella was next in line, at least by Tudor logic. But Elizabeth didn't trust her. She feared Arabella's claim, feared what nobles might do in her name. So instead of being prepared for the crown, Arabella was kept isolated, silenced. And then comes James. When Elizabeth died in 1603, James VI of Scotland became James I of England. And just like that, Arabella's royal claim was swept aside. She faded into the background, but she was still dangerous. One marriage, one alliance, and she could become the center of rebellion. So James watched her. when Arabella fell in love, or maybe simply acted on desperation, she secretly married William Seymour, another royal bloodline, ticking time bomb. Two heirs uniting, that wasn't romance, that was a threat. James responded with pure paranoia. He imprisoned Seymour in the tower. Arabella was placed under house arrest, but she didn't give up. She planned an escape, disguised herself as a man, fled by sea, hoping to reunite with William and flee to France. It was daring, desperate, almost cinematic, but she was caught, dragged back in chains, this time to the Tower of London itself. And there, her story ends in silence. She wasted away mentally, emotionally, physically, refused proper food, became ill. Some say she descended into madness. Others say she was poisoned quietly to avoid scandal. She died in 1615, no grand funeral, no royal honors, buried in Westminster Abbey next to her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots, as if history was trying to sweep her away with the others who almost ruled. But the tower doesn't forget. Her ghost is said to be one of the most active female spirits in the tower, and one of the darkest. She's most often seen in the Queen's house, where she was held, a place already soaked in sorrow and silence. Visitors describe sudden drops in temperature, an overwhelming sense of grief. Some say they feel watched through the windows, even when this room was locked. But her ghost, it doesn't weep, it seethes. There are reports of a woman's shadow pacing aggressively, of an unseen force slamming doors, of sobbing that turns into sudden, bitter laughter. And then there's a mirror legend. There was said to be a large ornate mirror in her chamber, the only luxury she was allowed, covered with gold and cracked slightly in the corner. One night, just before Arabella died, she allegedly sat in front of the mirror for hours, staring, unblinking, whispering in languages no one recognized, not English, not Latin. And when they found her, she was still facing it, still whispering, her eyes glassy, fixed on her own reflection, or something within it. The guards began to avoid it. Even the servants refused to clean near it. Why? Because they said the mirror reflected more than just Arabella. It trapped her. The stories are always similar. A maid glances into mirror and sees Arabella standing behind her, even though the room is empty. A guard sees her face instead of his own, pale, sunken eyes filled with rage and pleading at once. One visitor claimed that Arabella's reflection moved when she didn't, looking up when she was looking down, opening her mouth to scream silently. What if Arabella didn't just waste away? What if the mirror was her channel? A ritual object, a tool, a portal, something she used to watch her husband or glimpse other timelines, the life she was supposed to live, the throne she never sat on. What if she wasn't whispering madness, but prophecy? Maybe the mirror didn't trap her soul. Maybe she chose to leave part of herself inside it. Maybe that's why she still haunts the tower, because her body died in the Queen's house, but her spirit never left the glass. The mirror was removed from her room shortly after her death. Some say it was smashed, others say it was buried in the tower vaults, but a few very old records suggest it was hidden in a private collection, and that even now it shows more than it should. And if that mirror is ever found again, what happens if someone looks into it and Arabella looks back, but the legend lingers? There are whispers, long buried in noble family records, that Arabella may have been pregnant when she was in prison, that she gave birth in secret, that the child was taken or killed. No records, no grave, no name. What if her ghost isn't just mourning lost love or lost power? What if she's guarding the truth about a hidden heir, a stolen future, a broken lineage, a secret the tower was built to contain? And maybe, just maybe, that's why she still walks the halls. Not just a ghost, a witness, a warning, a queen who never wore her crown, but still holds something far more dangerous than power: the truth.
That was a bit dramatic. When they talk about, like, Queen Elizabeth, they always say, like, she was the end of the Tudor line, so I didn't realize there were like, King Henry had siblings,
Okay.
which would, like, make sense. Like, I mean, of course, he might. So I didn't know there technically, after Queen Elizabeth, there would have been another person to take over. What kills me is, like, you're doing too much. Like, you know you're not gonna live forever.
Yeah.
So why not have your own bloodline take over?
It says that she didn't trust her. Elizabeth didn't trust Arbella.
She didn't trust her because she also has a right to the throne, and she didn't trust her because she knew once she died, it would be Arabella who would be queen. That's why she didn't trust her. I
But
think she
why
didn't
not
trust
trust
her.
her?
I think she didn't trust her because I think she thought, oh, well, since she knows that when I die, she'll be queen, so maybe she'll try to kill me off sooner, which also doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know if you already know, like, you purposely did not have children. Yeah, you were called the
Mhm.
Virgin Queen, but we all know you was no virgin. But you chose to have no heirs to take over for you. So if you know there is a family member who is going to take over when you are done within the same bloodline, I don't know. I know like this is just me, but I think I would make them like an apprentice.
Mhm.
Like teach her how to rule.
That's what I would do. Like, if my niece was to take over for me, I would, like, have her be with me and everything, learn, teach her, you know?
Like
Kinda
everything is not
pass that wisdom down.
everything is not a novel. This is not Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. This is not a
Especially
plot.
if Elizabeth did this while Arabella was young, she could mold her how she wants her to
Yeah.
keep ruling, you know, like,
Yes.
"This is how I did it, and I want you to continue this line," you know what I mean?
Yes.
So she wouldn't know enough to change everything
Another way to do it. Yeah,
unless somebody made her.
back to her ear.
It's like being a supervisor and you're teaching, you know, somebody that just started. You
Yeah, like
teach them how you want them to learn.
a lady in waiting. Like she make her your apprentice. She is
Yeah.
to be with you at all times. And
Mhm.
then also, okay, maybe she doesn't want to rule alone like you did. Maybe foster relationships with who you would want her to marry. Like you could have guided her because now you passed and then who took over? So I just don't get that. So
James
I
James
think
James took over.
yes. I think to live back then, so many people had to be insane.
And you think, like, Elizabeth rather had James take over than Arabella? Like,
No, I don't
exactly,
think
you're a
so.
woman, pass it on to another woman.
But I think that mistrust was and God knows who was in Elizabeth's ear too, because she
That's
has her
true.
own advisors,
Mhm.
but who's to say they weren't like, "Oh, she's gonna plot to kill you, to take your throne." But my thing is like,
Yeah.
you there
And
were
if
ways that you could've
and Arabella fell in love with William Seymour, he's another royal bloodline. Elizabeth coulda made them strong
yeah.
together. She could've, you know.
She saw that as a threat, though.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing that as a threat, you should have
No,
fostered
Arabella
that.
fell in love after Elizabeth died. That was when James took over.
Oh, okay, okay.
But, like, Elizabeth could have brought that union together or a different union for her and not
Yeah.
someone so strong in royal blood, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 'Cause, like, her sister Mary, her mother wasn't killed. She lived off in wherever because she technically was a princess of Spain,
Mhm.
and Spain was a major country back then, and they had a huge army.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they had Christopher Columbus. But so France couldn't do anything about that. But,
Yeah.
so give her a tie to someone that will give her more power and someone maybe of gentle spirit. Like, what's up with these people? I can't. Y'all got
Just
too
so
many
much
people who don't want the throne, and y'all be just killing them off because of
just a lot of paranoia with that crown. It seems like
mhm,
every single person put that crown on, and suddenly they're just paranoid with everybody that's around them.
which makes sense. Like today, there's no reason. Like, all right, King Charles, he has the crown. He ain't got nothing to be paranoid about because don't nobody care about you.
Yeah.
You're a title. At that, you ain't your mother, so it is what it is. But back then, I can understand the paranoia because I feel like so many people will be plotting against you, and then you got side plots, and then you don't know who to
And
trust.
then
It's
you
like,
got people lying to you saying, "Oh, this person was trying to kill you, that person was
yeah,
saying this." There's a lot of rumors everywhere. So you don't
and
know who to trust. You don't know who to listen to first.
no, it's like people with money. Do they?
The closest people are the ones that are like, you know,
The ones
plotting
that ready to
against you.
backstab you, yeah. Like
Exactly.
like people with money or celebrities, like
Even your own advisors, the people you
yeah,
trust the most, they're the
they're
ones that are
advising you to go in a way that they want.
exactly, they're the ones starting rumors.
Yep. And they know too, like, if they no longer are advising you, then when a new king or queen or whatever comes along, they could pick somebody else to advise, and then they're out on the street too,
Yeah,
or
but
killed.
I wanna find this mirror, the mirror legend.
Oh,
I wanna find that mirror and look into it, see what
are
I
you
see.
are you looking into it? That sounds like Harry
No,
Potter stuff right there. Oh,
no, I'm not looking into it. It's probably lost somewhere or, like I said, broken, smashed.
it's just I'm happy. Back then sounds so fascinating and interesting and crazy, but I would not wanna be back then. First of all,
Yeah.
I like to be clean too much.
Mhm. That's what I always tell Jay. I'm like, "These people, like, when do they shower? Like, then they wore all those clothes. How musty and dusty are they under there?"
But also only people who had, like, money took baths,
Mhm.
and I couldn't take baths all the time, and then they would just pile on oils and perfumes
Yeah.
to smell fresh. Listen, I gotta wash my hands every 5 minutes, so I don't wanna hear that. Sir Walter Raleigh, explorer, soldier, poet, and one of Queen Elizabeth I's most trusted men, ended his days as a prisoner of the Tower of London, left to wither in the darkness for 13 long years before his final, brutal execution. But while his head was severed from his body, many believe his spirit never left the tower. His ghost is one of the most frequently reported apparitions in the tower's haunted history, a restless presence wandering the stone corridors as if still searching for a way to escape his fate. I like how they said that out on all of them. One of the most brutal, and they've never left the tower. Few men rose as high or fell as hard as Sir Walter Raleigh. He was a charismatic explorer, famed for his expeditions to the New World, his search for El Dorado, and for introducing tobacco and potatoes to England. He was a favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, who showered him with titles, land, and power. But his forbidden secret marriage to one of Elizabeth's ladies in waiting sent him plummeting into disgrace. Despite this, Raleigh found his way back into royal favor until the death of Elizabeth. When King James I took the throne, Raleigh became a political target. Accused of plotting against the king, he was arrested and thrown into the Tower of London in 1603. Unlike most prisoners, Raleigh was given special treatment. He lived in the Bloody Tower, not in a filthy dungeon, but in relative comfort. His wife and son were even allowed to stay with him at times. But over 13 years, his mind and spirit decayed. He went from a man of adventure to a shadow of himself, trapped in a cage of stone. He spent his days writing poetry and conducting experiments in a small laboratory. He grew bitter and disillusioned, dreaming of escape or a pardon that would never come. His once sharp wit dulled, and his eyes grew hollow, filled with the weight of betrayal. Eventually, he was released, but his freedom was a trick. He was sent on one final expedition, but when it failed, King James ordered his execution. On October 29th, 1618, Sir Walter Raleigh mounted the scaffold of Whitehall, facing his death with the same swagger and defiance that had once made him a legend. He ran his finger along the executioner's axe, testing its sharpness, and joked, "This is a sharp medicine, but it is a physician for all diseases." When the axe fell, his head was severed in one clean stroke. His wife, Lady Raleigh, had his head embalmed and kept it in a red velvet bag for the rest of her life. His body was buried, but his head remained separate, a gruesome relic of a life cut short. With a spirit as unbreakable as his, it's no surprise that Raleigh never truly left the tower. His ghost has been seen more times than almost any other. The Bloody Tower, where Raleigh spent 13 years, remains one of the most haunted locations in the Tower of London. Guards and visitors have reported seeing a tall, shadowy figure dressed in 16th century clothing standing at the window or walking the corridors. Some claim to have seen him leaning against the walls, looking out at the Thames as if longing for escape. Unexplained footsteps echo through the Bloody Tower at night, as if someone pacing restlessly, unable to find peace. Guards have searched for the source of the sound, only to find empty corridors and locked doors. A strange glow has been reported in Raleigh's old room, as if a candle or lantern is burning, even when the room is completely sealed off. Some say this is his spirit still conducting his experiments, trying to finish the work he started before his execution. In the Byward Tower, another dark silhouette has been seen walking through stone walls believed to be Raleigh, wandering the towers he once called home. Guards have sworn they saw his ghost walking straight through a locked door and vanishing into the air. Walter Raleigh was a man of action, wit, and ambition, but his fate was sealed by betrayal. He dreamed of freedom, yet found only cold stone walls and a headless end. Does he still roam the tower, searching for a way to escape, or is he simply a residual echo of the man who once walked those halls, forever reliving his captivity? One thing is certain, his story did not end with the axe.
She must have really loved him to keep that head.
No, that's weird.
That is really weird.
I would have not came back.
Mhm.
They let you leave on another expedition. I would not have come back. Like if you see that it failed, I'm not coming back. I might
Mhm.
love my wife and child, but I'm not coming back. I got lost at sea. I died. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not coming back. Like come come back to be put to death? No.
Yeah. They'd have to come and find me.
Yeah. And drag me back.
Mhm. Just like every other person was dragged.
I mean, it makes sense that I guess his spirit would have been there, seen there the most often because he stayed the longest in the tower, though he basically lived in the tower. I don't know why it's called a tower because there's more than one tower. It's a big ass castle.
Mhm.
So like I
'Cause when
can't
I think of it like a tower,
like a
you know what I mean?
literal
Like an
tower.
actual tower.
Yeah.
But then when I looked at the pictures, I'm like, "That's not even a tower."
It's a castle with
Yeah, with
different
tons of
towers. That's
rooms.
why it has
Yeah.
the bloody tower, the white tower.
Mhm.
So I he lived there and it's just sad because they should have just left him alone.
Yeah.
Because at that, I don't even understand what he got locked up for. Because he was an advisor for Queen Elizabeth because he was a favorite of hers. And that's who. Why get married in secret? I bet you she would have been fine unless, because I know most of her favorites were her favorites because she was apparently sleeping with them.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if she would have seen that as a betrayal because in her mind, he belonged to her. And
Yeah.
then he goes and marries somebody else. So then not in her mind, she wouldn't be able to have him anymore, even though, I mean, she's queen, you can have whatever you want. The
Exactly.
Who's gonna tell you no?
Exactly.
Okay. And then I have a little short haunting story. In the 13th century, the Tower of London housed a menagerie of exotic animals gifted to the monarchy, including lions, leopards, an elephant, and even a polar bear, which was said to have been gifted to King Henry III by the King of Norway in 1252. The bear was kept in the tower, but allowed to swim and fish in the Thames on a leash. Well, that's sad. Centuries later, in the early 1800s, a guard at the tower reportedly encountered a phantom bear near the Martin Tower. The soldier, terrified, tried to stab the bear with his bayonet, but the weapon passed straight through the apparition, and the man collapsed from shock. He died shortly later. Since then, people have claimed to see or feel the presence of a spectral bear roaming the tower grounds, another one of its many ghostly residents.
Aw, the bear. He had such a
Yeah,
good life that he's decided to stay. Yeah,
first of
he
all,
was
you
on
were
a
fishing
leash.
on a leash. How
Yeah, but he's a pet. He's
I
a
wanna
pet.
know what kind of
No, but
leash held a polar bear because from my understanding, out of, like, all the bears, the polar bear is the strongest type of
yeah,
bear, and then you went from Norway, which I think is more cold,
yeah.
like, has a longer cold season to England, like, they have a summer.
Mhm.
That poor animal.
Well, he adjusted, but if his spirit decided to stay, I would think he had a good life.
Maybe.
I'm hoping he had a good life.
He probably had thousands of things to eat. I mean,
Yeah,
I bet you they fed him people too. But,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, they said because the tower for one time was a zoo, and it became a zoo because other countries would gift, the royals exotic animals, which I find so weird. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, to have an elephant and a lion in there.
In a place where I say that, but we have zoos everywhere, so where we shouldn't have these animals, but yeah. So that was just a little
Yeah, that's cute. I hope that he did have a good life and he was treated well. That's why his spirit still remains there. I hope that he was not killed.
yeah, that's a little palate cleanser for all the torture, mayhem, and
Yeah.
nonsense that happened all the years before.
Yeah.
Freaking kings.
Hopefully a positive story.
It's time to open the deck and see what messages the cards hold for us this week. Whether it's a warning, a whisper, or a revelation from the unknown, this is your tarot card of the week. This week's card is the Lovers. Love, harmony, relationships, values, alignment, and choice. In its purest form, the Lovers card represents conscious connections and meaningful relationships. The arrival of this card is a tarot reading shows that you have a beautiful, soul honoring connection with a loved one. You may believe you have found your soulmate or life partner. And the sexual energy between you both goes way beyond instant gratification and lust to something that is very spiritual and almost tantric. While the Lover's card typically refers to a romance tie, it can also represent a close friendship or family relationship where love, respect, compassion flow. The Lovers is a card of open communication and raw honesty. Given that the man and woman are naked, they are both willing to be in their most vulnerable states and have learned to open their hearts to one another and share their truest feelings. They shape the container from which trust and confidence can merge, and this makes for a powerful bond between the two. That's a nice card. That's not one I expected
Well,
to
last
pull.
week it was all tired, being tired and.
Yes, which I was.
Yeah, but this is nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't know. I guess that's more on a personal level, so I don't know what can come from that one, but to each their own and how they find out.
Yeah. And so the shadows fall once more upon the tower's ancient stones.
We've walked with the restless spirits, heard their whispering cries, and felt the chill of century-old secrets clinging to these cursed walls.
But remember, the tower never truly sleeps. Its ghosts wait in silence, watching, listening, until the veil thins again.
Thank you for joining us on this week's dark journey. We are the Shadow Keepers, and we'll meet you once more where the darkness lingers and the past refuses to die.
Until next time, stay vigilant, stay awake, stay aware, and your eyes on the shadows because not all shadows are harmless. Bye.
Bye. That was a mess.